Hi everybody, I am back at UK Games Expo 2021. I am here with Jane from Medusa Games and we are having a look at the latest and greatest that has been coming to the gaming table. Jane, what have you brought along for us today?
Okay, so it seems such a long time since we've all had a physical show, obviously. So the last physical expo, Tailor, which came out in Essen in 2019, I think you and I, we talked about it then, that wasn't even out here. So the first thing that we have is Tailor, a card game, which existed before, but the artwork was not the best, so then we had it redone. And on the stand we got some nice big characters, which you can maybe have a look at in a moment, which are characters out of that. So that's the first thing we have, which is new to a physical expo, but is actually 2 years old. Looking to things that we've been developing, because of course the one good thing about the last 18 months or so is we've all had lots of time to playtest stuff. So the next thing in the works...
Okay, well hang on, I'll come round here, just so our cameraman can get in.
Yeah.
Whoop. And what have we got here?
So this is the thing that we are currently working on. This is clearly only a prototype at the moment. And this is Oranges and Lemons. So the idea behind the Oranges and Lemons game, it's based on the rhyme Oranges and Lemons are the bells of St. Clemens. And in the game, it's our first attempt at a full-on Euro game. This is the plan. And so it's all to do with worker placement and so on. And you're looking at the rhyme, Oranges and Lemons, actually has more than one verse. It has quite a lot of it. So here we've actually got 15 different things from the rhyme, and you work your way around the board. And the way it goes, the mechanics of the game are that in turn you choose where you're placing people. To start with, you only have 2 people each. To get more people, you have to go to the docks with a certain amount of stuff. To begin with, you've only got what you can carry in your hands, so you have to go to a place where you can get a wagon to get more things. And so it's all to do with balancing where you go first and so on. And and there's also the bells. So if you make a bell, you can put it in a place and then you get more benefits from that place than other people do. So if I want to buy lemons, if I've got a bell on that square, my lemons are now cheaper for me. If I want to go to win the archery competition, I get more coins if I've got the bell there, and so on.
So we're very much going for that very classic Euro game feel of worker placement, resource management, trying to build the most efficient game engine you can.
Absolutely. And to begin with, you've only got 2 people each. You place them, and then they are used in order around the board, and as they're used, they then go onto the track. So next round, if I've gone quite early on here, I'm going to have a person quite early on in the game. So it's a constantly shifting order. It's not a player order as such, it's just pieces come off and go on to the next wave.
So you're also playing with the timing of activation within that then to actually determine who is going first in the round and actually use that as a tactical play as well then?
Absolutely. And then of course there's which points in the round do you get money and which points are you at a place where you can buy stuff with that money. So that's the other area as well. The coins will doubtless end up being neither these plastic things nor these shiny ones, but we shall see. So we've also got the East India Company here, because that was, of course, in medieval London. One thing about Medusa Games is we always try and be historically accurate to the extent that you can be in a game. And the East India Company and speculation therein was a very big part of life for quite a few hundred years. And the way that works is that you can buy a ship in effect, and then you draw out of the bag a couple of cards each turn, and they have various things in them. And some of these are to do with loans, because you can lend money and the interest you get can be affected by what comes out of the East India bag that year. So the idea is you've lent something and actually that's not prospering or it's not doing so well.
Yeah, they've had a bad year's trading.
Absolutely. And also to get actual cargoes from it. And you can have a sunken ship, and there's quite a few of those. So a sunken ship, obviously, that's a nothing.
Well, high risk, high gain.
Absolutely. So normally you have 2 possibilities with a ship, and they you can choose. If there's two people, obviously the second person's going to get lumped with whatever.
Oh, so you could force someone to crash?
Absolutely. And if you've got a bell there, then you get to choose the three things that come out the bag, even if you've not gone there every turn. And you get three, and you choose which two are on the board. So you can look and see who's got loans, that you can affect their interest rates, etc. as well.
It's a really interesting mechanic that I can now. It's a little bit of a take that thing whenever you control something, and you're able to sort of influence someone else's game.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sound as if it's super powerful to the point where it will break the game.
No, that's obviously, a lot more playtesting required, but hopefully not. Another thing you can do is export stuff. So you can go to the docks and actually export. So these are the available cargoes required. So here, if I had 2 black cubes by the time I got to this point, I could fulfill that cargo and get all that money. Here, 3 cubes of any kind would give me an extra worker. Here, I could get one of these loans that I'm giving out to people. That would give me a bell. But in the early stages of the game, as I said, you've only got your hands. You can't carry anything. So to begin with, you have to trade other things, buy and sell things, try and get enough money in order to have enough things in order to get around there to do that. So, as I say, it's intended to be our first attempt at a proper Euro.
I mean, it sounds as if all of the major mechanics are there for it. You have your workers, you have your basically your marketing engine that you're building up.
Yeah.
So like you say, you're starting out with you just walking around as like a low-end trader, and you're slowly building your way up. Oh, I got my first cart. Oh, I got my first ship.
Yeah.
And then as you get deeper and deeper into the game, everyone else is making those same sort of moves as you.
Yeah.
But then it's what sort of the critical mass is whenever you start attempting to influence someone else's business.
Yeah. And the other thing, of course, is there's other elements to it. So, for instance, being Lord Mayor was quite powerful. The political system was pretty corrupt. So one of the things you can do is you can go and basically buy votes. So you can go along and buy votes, and the votes have a victory point value to them, as well as the person who actually ends up Lord Mayor with the most votes, they get rather more victory points as well. And on that one, again, if you have a bell, then instead of just having to draw the top card and be stuck with however many points you've got, instead I get 2 and I can pick which one I'm going to have. So you can go down the politics route and seek to get points that way. You can go down the exports route and seek to get points that way, because in the early part of the game, these tend to be resources. In the latter part of the game, these tend to be victory points. So you can get quite a lot of things that way. Or you can go down the loan route, making lots of loans. Transport, as you get more transport, each extra bit gives you victory points. But in reality, most people have to get to almost the last end of that anyway in order to have a chance in the game. So you're not going to win just by having a ship, because everyone's going to build up to that point. And then there are the bells themselves. So putting bells down, you get points for each bell. You have to build a little bell first, then you can build a bigger bell, and then a larger one. But there's several more little bells that you can also build. And so when you finish the actual scoring, there are all these different elements that you're then looking to score on. So it's relatively hard as you go along to see who's winning, because then you've got to put all those bits into one go and get there. So obviously this is still only a play test. We'd have a couple of full-length play tests of this on our website if people are interested. We didn't do it in a physical way, we did it true lockdown style using Tabletopia and everything that way. Yep. But it is a full version of playable lot. So that's the most into the future thing. That's going to be a couple of years still, because with these sorts of games, as you know, the balance is crucial. And you really
if you don't match the balance, you're not going to make a great game. So now, the Great Fire of London is one that I have seen many times. I will shimmy around here. The
new thing about it for this time is we actually now finally have a proper 2-player version.
Oh!
So, back in 2010, when we first made this game, people weren't actually actually doing much in the way of two-player games. So I remember when we launched this at Essen, the big thing was the fact it would take 6 people and everyone was excited about 6 players. Nowadays, very few people are interested in 6-player games. Everyone wants to know, is there a 2-player version?
Well, it's something for me and my missus say to sit down and play of a night.
Absolutely. And of course, the last year has told everybody that it really is quite crucial to have that situation. So, the way it works, the ordinary Great Fire, for those people who don't know, it's all about fire gradually spreads across London, burning down houses and so on. Players on their turn can firstly choose which direction the wind is going to go in, and that determines which way the fire goes and what it destroys, and then you can move the firefighters around in order to put out fires and so on. The problem is it was designed on the basis there would be at least 3 players. If you try and play the ordinary Great Fire with 2 people, it's just too easy to control the fire, basically. So what we needed was a proper mechanic. Now, over the years, if you look on Board Game Geek, various people came up with ideas as to how it would work, but we decided, no, we needed to actually do a proper version of it, which we have here. So the idea is that we now have an alternate move, player, game, player, game. So an automated move by the game. And the way that the non-player turn order works is, first of all, you expand the fire. So the fire goes in whatever direction is the next win card in the deck. So you have no choice about that. And then you turn over one of the colour cards. So the fire is going to go in this direction, and it's going to try and burn a white house if it possibly can. If it can't burn a white house, it will go for a blue house. If it can't burn a blue house, it will go for a purple house.
So on and so on. So basically what you've done is you've engineered like a bit of controlled chaos into the game to actually make the game feel as if you have a 3rd player there or a 4th player without having to over-egg it.
Yeah, so that's that. So that moves the fire, and then of course we have to move the firemen. So the mechanic for that is you turn over one of these, and those people familiar with the game will see this is one of our objectives normally. So what's now going to happen is that the 2 closest firemen to that objective are going to move, and they're going to move in the same direction as that win card. And they will try and go to the place with the most uncontained fires if they can, or they'll go to the place with the most houses. And if you can't break the tie, then the player actually gets to choose. So the player still has some input, but only in a situation when the mechanic runs out. And what that tends to mean is that these games are a lot more destructive. You know, you use a lot more fire cones, because in a real world fire, that's the problem. It goes all over the place and you can't really control it. So you could argue it's actually a more authentic one than when you've got, especially with ordinary Great Fire, it depends a lot on what people are feeling. If they're feeling that they want to cooperate, they can keep it quite contained. If they're not, well, obviously, then it can go bananas all over the place.
Yeah, so it's more chaotic fire than tactical fire.
Yeah, whereas here, that's chaotic. The players are obviously still doing their own thing. And you score it all up in exactly the same way. So what you get with the expansion is these objectives, these cards, and also a different deck, because obviously with just the player then the fire, things like fire expansions, we can't have the fire choosing that. It needs to all come on the player's turn. So that's that. And this was actually launched at Digital Lesson, for want of anything else, because obviously we haven't had any physical things. So this is the first physical show when the 2-player expansion has been available.
Now, you guys also do 9 Worlds as well. Have you done anything with it recently?
Indeed. So, with the 9 Worlds...
I'll be clever. Oh, and I will shimmy this along.
Okay.
And that will give you a little room.
Right.
So just bear with us a second, folks. Lots to show off for Medusa this year. So if I can get this deck, and I will shimmy this like so.
There we
And that should hopefully give you enough space, yeah.
So Medusa, so the Nine Worlds is basically an area control type game trying to get control of the 9 worlds of Norse mythology. And we already have one expansion for that, which is basically around having additional objectives and additional items. But it's a game that a lot of Europeans in particular seem to really like, and we had quite a few people coming along at us, and they bought the base game, they bought the expansion. What's the next expansion? So okay, we need the next expansion. And the next expansion is one that, had the world been turning as it ought to, this would now have been out already, but as it is, obviously everything's got delayed a while. And so the idea is that you actually have monsters that you need to fight. So all this is obviously only prototype art at the moment. So instead of putting stones directly onto one of the 9 worlds, you can also place them in the mead hall, and people are gathering there ready to go and fight the monsters. And you lay out a certain number of monsters, and some of them are relatively not so powerful, don't take so much to beat. They come in the first half of the game. In the second half of the game, you have the more powerful monsters. And the way that you defeat them is by filling in all these little circles here. So in order to defeat the Huldra, we're going to need...
If we have, say, the stone troll here, what would I have to do to defeat that?
So, on the mead hall here, we would need in total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stones to defeat that. And they could be from anybody. And when it's defeated, then the person who's done the most gets to pick first. There's a series of rewards that you get for it, little tokens that you can use in the main game to do things. In addition, and there are also penalties. If the monster isn't defeated, then there's penalties. So if some people have tried to defeat it but not succeeded by the end of round 3, or in the second half by the end of round 6, those people who didn't contribute have to take a penalty. Like another player gets to take a card or sewn off your card or off the board or whatever. And if nobody's tried to defeat it, then obviously everybody ends up with penalties for that. If you do succeed in defeating it, then when the stones come off, they go to different places. So here, the first stone would go to Valhalla, another one would go into the 9 worlds, anywhere. One would go to a home world, those 2 to cards and these to reserve. Some of the larger monsters, like Grendel here, you actually end up with one of the last stone to defeat it actually ends up going to Helheim. So you might even have to do a bad thing in order to do a good thing, as it were. But Grendel gives you lots of monster points, which all contribute to victory points at the end of the game, and they have lots of rewards down here. So the idea is it gives something else that's going on in addition to the main game. And because these stones then go off and you might place them, and it might be a turn or 2 before that monster's defeated, and you might have forgotten that you've got something that's actually going to go to your home world. And those stones come back before you get to the point, after you can end up having, overpopulation and whatever, because you'd forgotten where your stones were coming back from the monsters, because that was 2 turns ago that you placed them. And we found that if you play with this expansion, you can still actually avoid using it at all and just play with the base game while the other people fight the monsters. But generally, if you're going to win, you do need to participate, at least to some extent. And we've got some examples here of the artwork that is going to go.
Some of the art is very beautiful.
It is indeed. So it's Andre Schneider again, the same guy who's done the artwork for, obviously, the 9 Worlds base game, and also for Tinker Tailor and Flying Machines. With the Great Fire expansion, we went back to the original artist who did that for us, and he did the work on the expansion, so it's all in the same style as that. Andreas Röck, who's a very talented Austrian, but nowadays he's more a photographer than an artist, so he doesn't do that much anymore. But he was happy to do the expansion because it was an existing game.
Like it was a project he worked on before. Now it sounds as if you guys have many pies on the go. to actually bring to market, to let people expand and play more of your games.
Absolutely.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to me. Is there anything else we've missed? Is there more? But wait, is there more?
I don't think so. So in terms of people who've come to our stand in previous years, they're coming here this time, things that weren't at the previous estimate they can walk away with and buy. It's Tinker Tailor, and then the 2-player for Great Fire, all of this other stuff. The 9 Worlds Creatures and Monsters, hopefully we'll have it by next Expo. The other one, Oranges and Lemons, we're pleased with it, but any Euro is a long time in the making, so that will be down the line from there.
Fantastic. Well, thank you once again for taking the time to talk to us. Everybody at home, if you're coming down this week to UK Games Expo, make sure and check out the Medusa Games stand, because there are tons of games that you can play. If you like your Viking stuff, like myself, check out the 9 Worlds. If you're looking for the Great Fire of London, go nuts. If you're looking at Tinker Tailor, go again, come down, get a game on. We hope to see you here. We'll move on. We'll see you again soon.